The private dining room at Meridian Country Club gleamed under crystal chandeliers as 40 of the most successful people in our city gathered to celebrate Dad's 60th birthday. The mahogany table was set with Waterford crystal and antique silver, while servers in white gloves presented course after course of the chef's finest work. Everything was perfect. Exactly what you'd expect for Dr. Harrison Mitchell's milestone celebration. At the head of the table, Dad commanded attention in his navy suit, his salt and pepper hair perfectly styled, his presence radiating the kind of authority that came from 30 years as the city's most respected cardiologist. Around him sat hospital board members, fellow surgeons, prominent attorneys, and successful business owners. The kind of people whose opinions shaped our community and whose approval meant everything to the Mitchell family reputation. And then there was me, squeezed between two empty chairs near the far end of the table, wearing my best dress from a department store clearance rack. Sophia. My brother Marcus's voice carried across the room with the practiced projection of someone accustomed to commanding boardrooms. At 35, Marcus had everything our family valued: a corner office at Morrison & Associates, the city's most prestigious law firm, a beautiful wife who organized charity galas, and twin daughters who attended the finest private schools. "There's my little sister," he continued, his smile wide and condescending. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet Sophia, our family's creative spirit." The way he said creative spirit made it sound like a polite euphemism for something embarrassing. The conversation around the table paused as polite attention turned toward me. I recognized most of these faces from previous family gatherings: Dr. Peterson, who ran the Children's Hospital; Judge Martinez, who'd served on the state Supreme Court; Elizabeth Chin, who owned the largest accounting firm in the region. "Sophia's been exploring her artistic side," Marcus explained to the group, his tone suggesting he was making excuses for a wayward teenager rather than describing his 29-year-old sister. "She's been working on some kind of digital art project. Very modern, very abstract." Several people nodded with the kind of forced enthusiasm usually reserved for children's finger paintings. "How interesting," said Mrs. Davidson, the hospital foundation's president. "Digital art is so contemporary. Are you selling your work at local galleries?" Before I could answer, Marcus jumped in with another patronizing smile. "Sophia's still in the exploration phase. You know how artists are. They need time to find their voice, develop their style. She's been working on this project for how long now, Soph?" 3 years. "For years," I corrected quietly. 4 years, he repeated with a chuckle that suggested this timeline was evidence of my lack of focus rather than dedication to building something significant. "She's very thorough in her creative process." Around the table I could see people exchanging glances. In their world, 4 years was either enough time to complete medical residency, make partner at a law firm, or build a substantial business. Using 4 years to explore digital art sounded like prolonged unemployment disguised as artistic pursuit. "Well," said Dr. Peterson kindly, "creativity is important. The world needs artists just as much as it needs doctors and lawyers." His tone suggested he was trying to be supportive while privately thinking that the world probably needed doctors and lawyers quite a bit more. Dad cleared his throat and raised his champagne glass. "Actually, I wanted to take a moment to talk about success and achievement, since we're all here celebrating another year of life and reflecting on what we've accomplished." The room fell silent, all attention focused on our patriarch. "I've been blessed with a fulfilling career in medicine, with the opportunity to save lives and advance cardiac surgery. Marcus has built an impressive legal practice and is on track to make senior partner before he turns 40. My granddaughters are already showing academic excellence that suggests they'll carry on the Mitchell tradition of achievement." He paused, his eyes finding mine across the table. "And Sophia? Well, Sophia is still finding her path. Which is perfectly fine," he added quickly. "Not everyone moves at the same pace. Some people need more time to figure out what they want to do with their lives." The charitable interpretation stung more than direct criticism would have. I was being discussed like a late bloomer who might eventually amount to something, given enough patience and encouragement from her successful family. "The important thing," Dad continued, "is that we support each other through different phases of life. Success isn't just about money or recognition. It's about finding something meaningful to contribute to the world." More nods around the table, more polite smiles in my direction. These people were trying to be kind, But their kindness was based on the assumption that I needed their patience while I figured out how to be successful like them. Marcus stood up, apparently inspired by Dad's speech. Speaking of supporting each other, I think it's time for some tough love. Oh no. Sophia, he said, turning toward me with the serious expression he probably used when delivering bad news to clients. You're 29 years old. You've got a college degree, you're intelligent, you're capable of so much more than whatever it is you're doing with this digital art thing. The room was completely silent now. Everyone focused on what was clearly about to become a family intervention disguised as birthday dinner conversation. I've been talking to some people at Morrison & Associates, Marcus continued. We could get you an entry-level position, paralegal work, administrative support, something to get you started in a real career with real prospects. That's very generous, murmured Judge Martinez approvingly. The legal field offers excellent opportunities for intelligent women, added Elizabeth Chin. Steady income, clear advancement paths, professional respect. Marcus nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. Sophia, you could be making $40,000 a year to start, with potential for growth if you apply yourself. Real money, real responsibilities, real contribution to society. Around the table, I could see people nodding approvingly at this practical solution to the Mitchell family's creative daughter problem. Or, suggested Dr. Peterson, the hospital is always looking for qualified administrative staff. With your background, you could work in patient relations or medical records. Very meaningful work, helping people during difficult times. Both excellent suggestions, Dad agreed. The point is, Sophia, it's time to move beyond the artistic exploration phase and start building something concrete. Something you can be proud of professionally. I felt that familiar knot in my stomach. The one that came whenever my family felt compelled to solve my life for me. They meant well, I knew that. From their perspective, they were offering practical help to a sister and daughter who'd been drifting aimlessly for 4 years. The problem was, their perspective had nothing to do with reality. I appreciate the suggestions, I said carefully, but I'm actually quite happy with my current work. Marcus's expression shifted to the kind of patient frustration usually reserved for stubborn children. Sophia, playing around with computer graphics in your apartment isn't work. It's a hobby that you've been indulging for way too long. Digital art can be very fulfilling personally, Mrs. Davidson said gently, but it's not typically a sustainable career path. Very few artists actually make a living from their creativity. And those who do usually have some other source of income to support them while they build their artistic reputation, added Judge Martinez. Family money or a spouse with a steady job or some other financial foundation. The implication was clear. As someone without family money or a breadwinner spouse, I needed to be more realistic about my prospects. My phone buzzed with a text from Alex, my CTO. Wall Street Journal wants an exclusive about the Series D funding round. Should I schedule for next week? I glanced at the message and quickly put my phone away, but not before Marcus noticed the interruption. Sophia, phone away during Dad's birthday dinner, he said with mild reproach. Whatever work emergency your digital art project is having can wait until tomorrow. Several people chuckled at his joke about my work emergency, clearly amused by the idea that digital art could generate the kind of urgent business communications that interrupted family dinners. Now, Marcus continued, getting back to the intervention, I really think you need to consider these opportunities seriously. $40,000 a year might not sound like much to people in this room, but it's a solid foundation for someone just starting their professional life. Plus benefits, Dr. Peterson added helpfully. Health insurance, retirement contributions, paid vacation time. The kind of security that creative pursuits rarely provide. Financial security is so important for young women, agreed Mrs. Davidson. You can't count on family support forever, and artistic income is just too unpredictable to build a life on. I looked around the table at these accomplished, well-meaning people who were trying so hard to help me see reality clearly. They genuinely believed they were offering valuable guidance to someone who needed their practical wisdom. If only they knew what reality actually looked like. My phone buzzed again, this time with a call from my investment advisor. I declined it, but it immediately started ringing again with a different number I recognized as belonging to a reporter from TechCrunch. Sophia, Dad said with growing irritation, what is so urgent that it can't wait until after dinner? Nothing urgent, I said, silencing the phone completely. Just some business calls. Marcus laughed outright. Business calls? Sophia, what kind of business do you think you're running from your apartment? The question hung in the air with all the weight of 4 years of family assumptions about my work and my prospects. Actually, I said carefully, I run a software development company. We specialize in artificial intelligence and machine learning applications. The silence that followed was broken only by the soft clink of crystal glasses and the distant sound of servers preparing the next course in the kitchen. A software company? Dr. Peterson repeated slowly. Artificial intelligence? Judge Martinez looked confused. I thought you were doing digital art. Digital design is part of what we do, I explained. User interface design, user experience optimization, visual data representation. But it's applied to AI software platforms. Marcus was shaking his head with the exaggerated patience of someone dealing with a delusional relative. Sophia, having a computer and maybe a freelance web design client doesn't make you a software company CEO. I never said I was a CEO. Then what do you call yourself? Before I could answer, Dad's phone buzzed loudly on the table beside his plate. He glanced at it with annoyance, clearly planning to ignore whatever notification had interrupted his birthday dinner. Then his face went completely white. What is it, Dad? Marcus asked, noticing the dramatic change in his father's expression. Dad was staring at his phone screen like it contained news of an alien invasion. It's a Forbes notification. Forbes. Mrs. Davidson perked up with interest. What does it say? Dad's voice was barely a whisper. Forbes 30 under 30 list just went live. Around the table, people leaned forward with curiosity. The Forbes 30 under 30 list was a big deal in our success-oriented community. The kind of recognition that confirmed someone had truly made it in their field. Anyone we know? Asked Elizabeth Chin hopefully. Dad held up his phone so the screen was visible to those sitting nearby. I could see my professional headshot, the one our PR team had insisted on updating last month, displayed prominently under the Forbes logo. Sophia Mitchell, Dad read aloud, his voice hollow with shock, founder and CEO of Nexus AI Systems. At 29, Mitchell has built one of the fastest-growing artificial intelligence companies in the country, with annual revenues exceeding $200 million and a current valuation of $1.2 billion. The silence that followed was so complete I could hear my own heartbeat. Marcus grabbed the phone from Dad's hands, staring at the screen like it might spontaneously change to show someone else's picture. This can't be right, he stammered. Sophia, this is obviously some kind of mistake. Some identity confusion. Actually, I said calmly, it's completely accurate. You're telling me, Judge Martinez said slowly, that while we've been discussing entry-level job opportunities for you, you've been running $1 billion company? $1.2 billion according to our latest valuation. Dr. Peterson was scrolling through the Forbes article on his own phone. It says here that Nexus AI Systems has revolutionized predictive analytics for healthcare, finance, and logistics. Your company's algorithms are being used by major hospitals to predict patient outcomes and by Wall Street firms to optimize trading strategies. That's correct. It also says, Mrs. Davidson added, reading over his shoulder, that you started the company 4 years ago in your apartment with $50,000 in personal savings. Marcus was still shaking his head frantically. This is insane. Sophia, you can't possibly be running $1 billion company. You drive a 10-year-old Honda. You live in that tiny apartment downtown. You shop at Target. I live simply because I reinvest most profits back into research and development. The Honda is reliable and fuel efficient. And Target has everything I need. Dad found his voice again. Sophia, $200 million in annual revenue? This year we're projecting closer to $300 million, but yes. And you employ how many people? I pulled out my phone and checked our latest HR report. 843 employees across 6 offices in 4 countries. The number seemed to hit the room like a physical blow. These were successful people accustomed to being impressed by their own achievements, but most of their companies employed fewer than 100 people. Marcus was frantically Googling on his phone now. Holy shit, he whispered, then caught himself. Sorry, Sophia, there are articles about you in TechCrunch, Wired, The Wall Street Journal. Why didn't you tell us? Tell you what? That you were building $1 billion company while we thought you were playing around with digital art. I looked around the table at 40 faces that had completely transformed over the past 5 minutes. The polite concern had been replaced by shock, confusion, and something that might have been awe. "You never asked what kind of digital work I was doing," I said simply. "You assumed it was art, so I let you assume that." "But why?" Dad's voice was plaintive. "Why let us worry about you, offer you entry-level jobs, treat you like you needed our help to figure out your life?" The question hung in the air, heavy with 4 years of misunderstanding. "Because I wanted to see if you could be proud of me when you thought I was unsuccessful." The words landed like a challenge. "Of course we're proud of you," Marcus said automatically. "We've always been proud of you." "Have you? Because 10 minutes ago you were explaining to everyone that I needed tough love and a reality check. You were offering me a $40,000 paralegal position because you were embarrassed that your sister hadn't figured out how to be successful yet." Marcus flinched like I'd slapped him. "And Dad," I continued, "you were talking about how some people need more time to figure out what they want to do with their lives. You were being charitable about my apparent failure to launch a meaningful career." Dad's face had gone gray. "Sophia, we didn't know. You didn't know because you never asked the right questions. You saw what you expected to see, your daughter struggling to find direction, and you never looked deeper." Dr. Peterson was still reading articles on his phone. "Sophia, it says here that you've donated over $50 million to medical research in the past 2 years, including a $10 million grant to children's cardiac surgery research." The irony was perfect. While my cardiac surgeon father had been worrying about my career prospects, I'd been funding the advancement of his medical field. "You donated to cardiac surgery research?" Dad's voice was barely audible. "Your work inspired me to get into healthcare applications for AI. Our predictive algorithms have helped reduce surgical complications by 30% at hospitals that use our systems." 30%? Dr. Peterson looked stunned. "Do you realize how many lives that represents?" "Approximately 12,000 patients annually, based on current adoption rates." The room fell silent again as everyone processed what they'd just learned. The family failure they'd been trying to help had actually built something that was saving lives on a scale most of them could barely comprehend. Elizabeth Chen was reading another article. "Forbes is calling you one of the most influential tech entrepreneurs under 30. They're comparing your impact to early Google and Facebook." "That's very flattering." "Flattering?" Marcus's voice cracked. "Sophia, you're apparently one of the most successful people in the country, and we've been treating you like you needed career counseling." My phone started ringing again, the third journalist in 10 minutes. This time I answered it. "Hi, this is Sophia Mitchell." "Ms. Mitchell. This is Jennifer Walsh from CNN Business. Congratulations on making the Forbes 30 under 30 list. We'd love to do a segment about your company's impact on healthcare AI. Are you available for an interview this week?" I glanced around the table at 40 people hanging on every word of this conversation. "Actually, Jennifer, could I put you on speaker? I'm with family right now and they're just learning about some of this for the first time." "Of course." I set the phone on the table. "Jennifer, could you tell my family a bit about what Nexus AI Systems does?" "Absolutely. Ms. Mitchell, your company has revolutionized how hospitals predict patient outcomes and how financial institutions assess risk. The algorithms your team developed are being used by over 300 hospitals worldwide, and your predictive models have improved patient survival rates significantly." Dad was staring at the phone like it was speaking in foreign languages. "Furthermore," Jennifer continued, "your company's valuation has increased by 400% in just the past 18 months. Industry analysts are predicting that Nexus AI could be worth $5 billion within 2 years." $5 billion? Marcus whispered. "That's if we decide to go public," I said calmly. "We're also considering several acquisition offers from major tech companies." "How major?" Dad asked faintly. "Google, Microsoft, and Amazon have all made preliminary offers." Jennifer's voice came through the speaker again. "Ms. Mitchell, would you be able to do the interview Thursday morning? We're planning a segment on young entrepreneurs who are reshaping entire industries." "That should work fine. Have your producer call my assistant tomorrow to schedule." "Perfect. And congratulations again on this recognition. What you've built is truly extraordinary." I hung up and looked around the table at faces that ranged from bewildered to amazed to something that might have been intimidated. "So," I said into the silence, Anyone still think I need help finding a real job? Marcus buried his face in his hands. Jesus, Sophia. I'm so sorry. We're all so sorry. We had no idea you were. We're what? We're more successful than all of us combined. It was the first completely honest thing anyone had said all evening. Dad stood up slowly like he was recovering from a physical blow. Sophia, I need to ask your forgiveness. For 4 years I've been watching you build something extraordinary while assuming you were wasting your potential. I've been embarrassed by what I thought was your lack of direction, when I should have been amazed by what you were actually accomplishing. And I've been treating you like a little sister who needed big brother guidance, Marcus added, his voice thick with regret. When the truth is, you've built something I can't even comprehend. $1 billion company, Sophia. You're operating at a level that's beyond anything I'll ever achieve. Around the table I could see people recalibrating their understanding of who I was and what I'd accomplished. The polite concern had been replaced by genuine respect, and several people were looking at me with the kind of deference usually reserved for major celebrities or world leaders. The question now, I said, standing up from the table, is whether you can be proud of me for who I actually am instead of disappointed in me for who you thought I was. We are proud, Dad said desperately. Sophia, we're so proud we can barely breathe. You've built something meaningful, something that's actually saving lives and advancing human knowledge. You've achieved more than most people dream of achieving. But you weren't proud 20 minutes ago, when you thought I was an unemployed artist who needed tough love and career guidance. The accuracy of this observation was written across every face in the room. I gathered my purse and headed toward the door. I love you all, but I'm disappointed in you. I'm disappointed that you were more comfortable with the idea of me failing than with the reality of me succeeding. And I'm disappointed that it took a Forbes article to make you see me clearly. Sophia, wait, Marcus called after me. Where are you going? Back to work. I've got a company to run, algorithms to develop, and lives to save. The things I've been doing for the past 4 years while you all thought I was playing around with computers. I walked out of the Meridian Country Club and into the cool evening air, my phone already buzzing with congratulations from my team, interview requests from journalists, and meeting invitations from investors who wanted to discuss our future plans. But as I sat in my 10-year-old Honda, the car my family had seen as evidence of my failure to launch, I realized I wasn't thinking about business success or Forbes recognition or even the satisfaction of proving everyone wrong. I was thinking about the look on Dad's face when he realized that his daughter, the one he'd been worried about and disappointed in and trying to help find direction, had been saving lives and reshaping industries while he wasn't paying attention. The family failure had actually been the family's greatest success. And now, finally, they could see the difference. 3 months later, I was featured on the cover of Fortune magazine. The article was titled "The Quiet Revolution: How Sophia Mitchell Built an AI Empire While Her Family Thought She Was Unemployed." It told the story of Nexus AI Systems, of our breakthrough healthcare applications, of the business philosophy that had made us one of the most valuable private companies in the technology sector. But it also told the story of my family, of the assumptions they'd made and how those assumptions had been shattered at a birthday dinner that changed everything. It discussed the importance of looking beyond appearances to see what people are really building, the danger of letting success be defined by traditional markers rather than actual impact. The article included a photo of my family at our latest board meeting. Dad, Marcus, and several other relatives had joined Nexus AI as advisors, bringing their expertise in medicine and law to help guide our expansion into new markets. The caption read, "The Mitchell family today, learning to see each other clearly." It wasn't perfect. Relationships that had been built on false assumptions don't heal overnight. But it was honest, and it was real, and it was based on truth instead of expectations. And for the first time since I'd started Nexus AI Systems, I felt like I could share my success with the people who mattered most instead of hiding it from them. The daughter they'd thought needed to grow up had been growing $1 billion company all along. And now, finally, they could see the difference.